Let me please invite the next speakers for the next panel. Vikram Vora, Vijay Nair and Abhinav Sinha from Oyo Rooms. If you could please join me on the stage. So friends, lunch is after this session. So there is no point if you're trying to go sneak out because lunch opens only after we close this session. So thanks gentlemen for joining us, and I think this new startup tale will be focusing on, we've seen the first 365 days, we've seen creating new categories, and now we're talking about Dhanda. So Dhanda is about sales, Dhanda is about scaling up and the whole journey, and the idea is to get their stories. We have three phenomenal entrepreneurs who've started what are seemingly lifestyle businesses and have now come into a position where they've scaled it up and made it productized and scalable. So we're going to understand how did they do this in the journey and get some insights from them. So quick one line or a quick 1 minute introduction about what you do, just to get context for everybody.
Hi, I'm Vijay. I run Only Much Louder. We are a talent management company. We run music festivals. So we manage everybody from musicians to All India Bakchod. And Omen is actually a group of 7 different companies, all playing in the alternate lifestyle space.
Hi, I'm Abhinav Sinha. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Oyo Rooms. So Oyo is an aggregator of budget and premium budget hotels across the country. We are trying to bring predictable, awesome stays to India, who is beginning to travel for various reasons. So that's what we do.
Hi, I'm Vikram Vora. I'm the co-founder of a company called My Dentist. We are a chain of dental clinics. That's it. Simple.
Fantastic. I think you've taken VC's advice very to the heart. Keep it simple. That's viral. So wise man once said that it doesn't matter where you're coming from, what matters is where you're going. But I think to get the story out from you, we'd love to know where did you start from, where are you coming from, what did you do before you started your companies, and what's your vision? These one-line intros se to kuch hoga nahi. So what's your vision for My Dentist, and uske pehle aap kya kar rahe the?
So, last to last year, we had a panel here. I was there on the panel, and at that time I said we started My Dentist because I saw opportunity, there's a huge market, and each one of you have 32 teeth, right? So I can be busy all the time, but I'll tell you the truth this time round, right? I mean, we were trying to sell dental chairs, and I had stock, and I lost the agency, and I didn't know what to do with the dental chairs, so I opened a dental clinic. As simple as that. And then that's one thing followed to another, and you know what happens when you land up in situations like these.
So Vikram has the fortunate situation of coming here as a second-time speaker. You all may not, so you have to give it out this time. The cat has to be let out of the bag.
Sure. So I actually did not start Oyo Rooms. So I started the journey when Oyo Rooms was already about 8-9 hotels, all in Gurgaon. So my background is a little non-traditional for founders. I'm a trained engineer, worked in a manufacturing setup, went to the US for an MBA, worked in consulting for 5 years, and then came back to India. Taking the bite that it's a great time and I need to do something, and ran into Ritesh one day. So sort of that's the story. But Ritesh, what started off as basically a personal pain point of the founder, Ritesh had been traveling in India and he had always faced problems finding predictable accommodation at affordable prices. It's a problem that a lot of Indian travelers face all the time. And like the quintessential entrepreneur, he put together a team which was passionate about solving the problem. So the vision for the company stems from that personal experience of all core team members, and it's very simple. It's about making sure India has a place to stay when Indians are traveling, and that stay is affordable, predictable, and very easy to access. So it's a simple vision that we are pursuing. It's a very big problem that we are solving, and we have just begun.
Check. For me, I dropped out when I was 17, and I needed something to do. And there was a band that I knew of who wanted to be managed. At 17, it's always the best option is to manage a rock band and travel the country. It sounded very lucrative. I thought I'll take a year off and go back to education, but it never happens if you take a year off. From then, it's just actually grown from one company to another. So when nobody was doing concerts, we started doing concerts. Nobody was managing comedy, we started managing comedy. But largely, I always wanted to do something where I work 6 months a year, I travel for 6 months, go to concerts, do all the things I really want to do. So OML just was kind of made to kind of suit that lifestyle, essentially.
So it was a lifestyle business.
It was actually a personal lifestyle business.
Personal lifestyle. This is new category. So we keep on hearing these VCs, when they don't want to invest in a particular business. That's like a lifestyle business, and we don't want to. So I think agency of dental chairs and is a pretty lifestyle kind of a business. Hotel rooms otherwise used to be, until my dentist started. Hotel rooms otherwise is not what VCs look at until Oyo and the others happened. And here you've admitted that it's a personal lifestyle. So what's your perspective, when these VCs give this gyan and this jargon, कि ये lifestyle business है and ये fundable business है, how should business be?
So for me personally, in terms of, I was in a business where we didn't need money because, you kind of do work, you get paid commissions, so you never needed a lot of capital. For us, I didn't even, in fact, because I had no proper business background as such, I didn't know what VCs meant, or I couldn't comprehend the fact that people would give you money to run a business. It's not something I understood. That kind of came in when my brother joined the business, who was an investment banker, and kind of came in, and we wanted to do a lot more things. And the first person I got money was from the first person I ever met. So we never had a struggle of going and pitching to multiple people. And in our case, actually, it's the VC and it's the board which kind of showed us the scale of what the business could be, because I was pretty happy doing whatever we were. Except that suddenly there was a point a couple of years ago where it started tipping over, where we do a festival over a weekend and we do 5 crores of revenue. So suddenly we kind of started realizing that there is tremendous potential in terms of what we were doing. And thanks to everything else was kind of going around the country, which is startups coming, a lot of people being employed in young, cool businesses, everybody had to spend their money. So, we just became the outlet where they could come and spend their money. And that's what kind of the VC really pointed out to us. And now that I'm kind of used to that, we can really see how it can keep scaling up and up, and how we kind of diversifying into different things, but still targeting the same core audience.
I think that's a very fortunate situation you were in, where the VC was telling you that this is how you can make money and I'm going to put money. Yeah. I think for everybody else, it's the reverse, where they're trying to tell the VC, this is how we're going to make money, and they say, no, we're not going to put money. Vikram, how different was that for you? Did you have to chase your first investor?
So first investing was not difficult. Actually, it's a similar story. So, my ex-boss, I used to work for him, Anand Lunia. Is he there? Is Anand Lunia there? India Quotient?
The tall man of the
okay, he might be world. Outside, yeah, fine. So I used to work for him, and so after we used up the dental chairs to put up a few dental clinics, in one of the more casual conversations, he saw opportunity in the business and, mentored me, or rather motivated me to do what we are doing right now. And then, yeah, of course, then we were able to mold this. But more importantly, funding was difficult. The last round that we raised around 2 months back, right? And we being a brick and mortar company, very difficult. Okay, so I categorize, so the last round I used to categorize VCs into 2 kinds of people, right? One are these VCs who come back and first meeting, he ask you, do you have an app? Okay, and the others who don't. So the people who ask me, do you have an app, are definitely not giving me the money. Because, I cannot deliver dental treatments over an app. Right? It's impossible. Imagine somebody telling you over an app, you know what, get a drill from the kitchen. Okay? You can't do that, right? So a lot of people coming back and telling you, you should pivot to health tech. So if you're doing food, pivot to food tech. If you're doing health, They would pivot to health tech. Was we are not doing that. I don't have the capabilities of doing it. I don't have the facilities to do it. So we stuck to our guns, and fortunately we got some very good investments now. So yeah, it's difficult, but you know, there's space for everybody.
Well, for us, we ran about 7 to 10 hotels in Gurgaon for a really long time, and this was before we ever got any funding. And that is when we were able to really understand what was the problem. You know, a personal problem is very different from what the market is perceiving. And there you have to build in a lot of science and really understand which are the problems that you are there to solve for first. And we took a lot of time to do that. For about 10 months, we operated just in Gurgaon. And that built a very fundamental understanding of the business and pretty sound economics also at the unit level. I believe that was pretty instrumental in us making a pitch when we went out and started talking to the investors when we thought we were ready to expand. So yeah, you know, that's it. I think patience and ability to say that you have a model which is working with sound unit economics in a place which you can say is then scalable, that is the stage that you need to be in. I think if you're not at that stage, a lot of things need to go right for the magic VC meeting to happen.
So without the VC money, so my question is both to Vikram and Abhinav. Do you think you could have bootstrapped to attain your vision?
Yes, you know, to a certain extent, you know, OYO has raised money, so I cannot say that, you know, we have bootstrapped right through. We have raised money. We have raised 3 rounds already. So the key here is the vision became clear while we were still bootstrapped. The ability to articulate the vision with numbers, with data, with real business on the table also was available while we were bootstrapped. And reaching up to that stage, in my opinion, took a lot of courage from everyone on the team. It is important to bootstrap, and you know, we have heard this earlier, not only to focus on the fundamentals, but I think to be very clear, you know, business model keeps evolving so much in the beginning, and I'm sure it will evolve later on as well, but for the team to have a lot of confidence in saying that this is what we are trying to do, and for everyone to be on board, that initial stage of bootstrapping really helps. There are only so many ideas you can go after. You know, that's the fundamental concept of bootstrapping. Forget everything else. There is one idea that you're pursuing, and that conviction of pursuing that very problem, once that is established, then, you know, then there is merit in, you know, raising something and not being bootstrapped.
Vikram, in hindsight, bootstrappable?
So, I mean, we did bootstrap, right? I mean, you're there with 10 dental chairs which you can't sell, and you open a clinic, and then you realize you need a dentist. I mean, I'm not a dentist, right? So, to putting those, I mean, I didn't have the money to put those dental chairs, because you just can't put those dental chairs out on the road and expect people to come and get themselves treated. So you got to go get a location, put the chairs in place, get a dentist, make them work. So we had 5 clinics before we got funded, and for those 5 years, 5 clinics, we did bootstrap. It's a different thing that I landed up with 1.5 crore of debt and a lot of unpaid credit card dues. In fact, I'm still on the negative list of Amex cards, so I can't get an Amex card, ever. Okay? So I had a settlement with them. So that's bootstrapping, right?
So Vijay, coming to you, I think the event industry has some peculiar traits. You know, there are things which cannot be done until you have certain people in your phone book, and you need to have the right contacts and the right pockets to pull out the thread, and that's the nature of the business.
Making me sound like a drug trafficker or something, and it's not that intense, man. Yeah.
No, I think that's a known fact.
I mean, that's only part of a business. Sorry.
That's a known fact, but yeah, that's a part of the business. So it's tricky. So when you started off, you said you started off at 17, you know. I mean, how did you get to the point where you had those numbers in your phone book, to a point where, you know, you could actually fund those unforeseen things that often happen at events, you know, like we've seen your Jerry Seinfeld show sort of get called off at the right moment. Those are things which are a part of the business. So how do you get to that? Is that bootstrappable, is my question.
It's 2 things. I think when I started out, I mean, because somehow I've always been shameless about asking. So I wanted to manage bands. The biggest band was Pentagram. So I started with them. I didn't go like, you know, bottom up or something. So I'd go and speak. I met Vishal. And I had a chat with him saying, I want to manage the band. It lasted for 30 seconds. He said yes, just because he was happy for anybody to do all the dirty work that comes with management. So once I started with that, then it kind of went from one thing to another. Similarly, with be it an AIB or anything else, anytime I see any kind of talent that I really want to work with, I don't think it's as much about knowing who it is, but having a really good personal conversation and people kind of come on board. So it's like many other people said, it's about selling yourself and kind of getting them in. I believe our business has absolutely no entry barriers. There'll be some 21-year-old kid who's just hungrier than I am and better than I am who can kind of come and take over what we do at any point of time, which is why we always have to be on the edge. And on the other part of it, yes, I've dealt with government and police, especially police, a lot more than anybody should, ideally, which is what kind of brings down, like, I mean, I can't even express how, the more you kind of understand how the system functions, because unlike many other businesses where you do one-time licensing and you just run your life, events, every single, what I had to do 13 years before is what I have to still do right now. And it's just stupid. It's just stupid how governments kind of really function. Also, one of the major reasons why the event and the lifestyle industry, especially on-ground stuff, has never taken off. But yeah, now I think it's got to a point where it's ridiculous, where there will be a constable who will come and cancel a license, and then you're talking to a member of parliament who will get it done. And then you just wonder that, like, I don't want my member of parliament to be getting a license cleared for a comedy show in Lower Parel. That's not what he should be doing, but that's what they all kind of end up doing. And it's quite sad and pathetic about how ridiculous it is. Just kind of a follow-up on that, and I think I've realized the reason why it's remained that way is the biggest players in our market have kept it like that. Corruption helps the top end of the business more than anybody else. It's because you kind of really figure out how to navigate the system, and you kind of make it a barrier. So when we started on this campaign after Jerry Seinfeld and of getting this one-window licensing system, Delhi became the first one. Maharashtra will become the second one right now, but we've set a target of 12 months, 28 states, just getting that done.
Fantastic. So you've raised venture money as well, right?
Yeah, we've actually raised, we have 2 large investors within the company itself, yeah.
Okay. And how recent was this?
We started, I think, I had to first raise capital because we do this festival called NH7 Weekender. When we did it for the first year, the projection was, it was ridiculous. We thought so many people would come, and like 1/4 of that turned up in return. So I had to mortgage my house to kind of pay the debt. When I say my house, it was my father's house, to be clear.
Wow.
So it was, I had to kind of make sure that that money comes back. So I was very happy to venture capital then, because as a middle class family, the first thing is, ghar bach gaya to theek hai, So it's, that's how I kind of raised capital. But I've been fortunate that I've had stellar investors. I can't even tell you how incredibly good our experience with them has been. So they kind of really came in, and recently, about 6 months, last December, we raised another round. And now, in fact, I've realized that it's every 2-year process, because, the way kind of the company keeps expanding, and we were about 40 people about a year ago, we're about 120 people now, we're 200 in no time. So I think now it's a continuous process, because we have to keep expanding into multiple directions. Yeah.
So do you do like sales review meetings every week or every fortnight? Do you have those?
No, nothing. I personally do sales. I love, in fact, the company runs itself now. So one of my personal goals has been to work less and less every year, which is right now on track. The other personal goal was
That's why you're here?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. On a Saturday in Powai, who else would do that? So I think that's kind of a personal thing in terms of to make sure that there is a great secondary level of management. So I think over the last 3 years, I really learned to just emotionally disconnect from the business in terms of making sure I do ridiculous amounts of delegations. So now each of the 7 divisions runs itself. I actually don't do review meetings, but I think each of the team is good enough that when there's crisis, they will make sure that I'm in. Otherwise, it runs.
The reason I asked the question is to understand, before you got funded, since the topic is about sales and scale, right? What were the changes in the whole sales process? What were you thinking before the VCs came in, and what did they make you think after they came in?
I got a lot more discipline. I think it was in terms of, initially it was jo bhi ho raha hai, like business would keep coming in, it was never tough. But I think now there is a very clear focus in terms of, we know there are things like there are targets and things like that. And I think that process of what the VCs kind of come in, because there is an MIS, there is all of that, it's made us a much better company. In fact, I think I could have done a lot of things I've done 6 years ago if I had that kind of discipline. Because, and in a way, all said and done, even if you're an entrepreneur, you're reporting to your board, you're reporting to this thing. And I think it's good to have that layer. They kind of make sure that any decision that we kind of take, or anything that, that you're accountable and responsible, which I don't think I was about 5-6 years ago. To some extent, it's better now, yeah.
So Vikram, how was your organization? How were you all thinking before the VCs came in? What were your sales processes? And how did they change?
You don't have a sales process. Okay. It's a dental clinic, right?
Correct, you can't sell, right? People walk in.
Yeah. Anyways, so we used to sit back and wait till the patients used to come, and then we used to treat them. A lot of it has changed after that. The primary reason being we've just, after the VCs came in, we got people like R. Sriram, even Alok Nanda and company to help us build a brand, and also to put something which is more or less like a sales process in order to get leads. And it's a very difficult industry to be in. I mean, everybody would say dental clinics are extremely simple. What is it? You put a chair, get a dentist base. People don't go to dentists. I mean, I can have an open question right now. How many of y'all have gone to a dentist in the last 1 year? Who's that?
Daily dentist.
He's a dentist, okay? Yeah. How many of y'all have gone to a dentist in the last 1 month? See? Now this is what happens when a VC asks you, what's the lifetime value of your customer? Right? Right? So that's where the problem starts. So when you tell them, you know what, I'm going to acquire a customer at an X cost, and over the age of 40, 50 years that the person lives, he's going to give me an X amount. Okay? You can't pitch those kind of things back, because you know that you will not be able to live with them. So what happens is when you get a VC on board, they get people who know analytics, who know things about selling, which I did not. They helped me build a team, again something that I did not know. They made me realize that the company can run without me. Right? No, seriously. I mean, I was a chair technician, right? I used to sell and repair chairs. So if there's a chair breakage, say for example, in a chair in Borivali, I go there and repair the chair myself. I say, usse nahi hoga. Mai karega. So these are things that they bring about, which otherwise you can't change, because it becomes a part of your character when you grow as an entrepreneur, right? I mean, you feel the whole world works because you're working. That's one thing that they made a change, and it really works right now. I'm sitting here because of that.
So Abhinav, I think you joined in 8-9 months, you mentioned, after Oyo started.
Yeah.
You come in from an investment banking background, so probably you would have brought in some changes in the whole process. So I think, the majority of the audience here is about in the first 6 months. And probably they're doing some of those mistakes that Oyo was doing, and probably you corrected. So why don't you share some of those mistakes, that'll be helpful.
Yeah, and I started and we kept making those mistakes for a very long time. It's very difficult to get over them, right? So Oyo is in the process of selling first to high net worth individuals who are running their budget and sort of premium hotels. And in India, that sales has always been a very relationship driven process. So unless you had a product that everyone could identify, and sort of, we are getting there now, where you go to a new city and people say that, yes, Oyo Rooms, naam suna hai aapka, aaiye baithiye. Till that point, it is all about the relationship that you can build. So I think while that is very powerful, the point where you pivot the whole organization and say that, great, everyone is using relationship to sell, which is me, Ritesh, everyone in the leadership team, but if you have to make yourself dispensable to a certain degree, you need to convert this into a little bit of science. And that is where the experience of your investors is very helpful. They have seen a lot of companies do that time and time over again. And that is where they also bring in certain discipline on how you capture your own learnings. For us, before that, every selling experience was just a story. But then we were able to convert it into sort of patterns and the different type of people we have, regionality, etc. And it made us easier to make other people salesmen. So, from driving to Borivali to repair a chair, we were able to sort of train the trainer and say that, hey, you are awesome salesman now. So that is the process that was facilitated.
But give me a couple of anecdotes, it'll be probably helpful for the audience since they're early stage. This is how we screwed up. This is something that we did and it wasn't working, and probably I don't want to be doing it now, and I don't want you to be doing it now. couple of examples or incidents.
A lot of mistakes, right? I think the more successful the startup, the more mistakes you have in the early cycle. One of the mistakes always is consistently the communication that you have to do. It all starts off with a very small group of people talking to each other 100 times a day, and then before you realize you have your investors, you have customers, you have other employees, and the communication pattern somehow does not change, right? So that was a mistake that at least we did, and we realized that you have to have a totally different approach towards communication. You have to go out and talk more, write more emails, call more people, especially if you are geographically diverse and you have 100-odd cities. You just have to go there and communicate more. So that was definitely one mistake. The other mistake was people have time and time again referred to hiring. We used to look at resumes, and it is really, really difficult to figure out, what people bring to the table. The flip side of this is if you just go by your references, you do not get the type of diversity in the team that you would like, because then everyone tries to recruit from his network, and the networks are only limited. So I think there's a choice there, and we stumbled upon this pretty late, but we said that we will err on the side of great references, and it's fine if we are not getting great diversity for some time. So that was a mistake. We just could not figure out, how really getting great talent in works. And associated with this is just the part of there can be a great guy, but if he is not a fit, it's not a fit. He can have the best resume in the world, but you don't need the guy, and he does not need you. So that's one mistake which not only us, I have heard some other people make time and time again.
Thank you. So now I'll come to the point about growth, which is also relevant to this theme. Now growth is something which is defined very differently when you are in the lifestyle state of business and when VCs come in. So if I were to tell my uncle about growth, and just like the business that Vijay was running in his early days, it's all about cash and the bottom line and profit. You're getting more of that and you're growing. But now when we're looking at scale and growth of VC funded and high growth startups, they're not talking about profits in the first 5-7 years. Like, they're looking at a very different metric of measuring growth. How has that changed? And what's growth for you today? So, Vikram.
Unfortunately, in the space that we operate, we still have to give profit numbers. Okay, so that's the sad part about all these entrepreneurs who are with me in this brick and mortar space, right? So if you go to an investor and ask them, it's the first 3 years when you're not asked about the profits, but the third year, you got to be profitable. So that's the unfortunate part of it, that you don't have a highway as wide as a lot of other companies that have. But nothing bad about it. See, even from my case, because I come from a business family and a very orthodox Gujarati business family, having anything red on the balance sheet is like a taboo, right? I mean, this person should be thrown out of the family immediately, forget the business, right? And it's still that way. So a lot of people think, kya kar raha hai? What is he doing, right? I get a lot of dentists, senior dentists who come back and tell me, what bullshit is this here? You're just to screw up the industry, right? You're not making any money, you're not making anybody else also make any money. It's okay. I am sure a lot of other people feel similarly about it. But you get to know that, when you're moving from a company that was a 5-clinic outfit with, say, 5-7 dentists working, to today 106 clinics with 1,500 employees, more than 550 doctors working across 4 cities, catering to more than 25,000 patients who are actually treated, and people do die because of dental disorders, right? So they're actually treated rather than just forwarded back. So there's a lot of complexity. So one of the most important things that our investors as well as our partners have bought into the system is standardization, process orientation, and also a lot of team building. So those are the 3 main things that we've been able to do right.
So what's your definition of growth? Is it still the bottom line, or?
It's changing. It's changing. So now we are looking at bottom lines, because, see, fortunately for us, the funnel is very clear, right? We can only put up 5 to 10 clinics because we are setting up the clinics, and this is a company-operated, company-owned chain. So I have to show unit level profitability in order to convince people that this business is working. I cannot talk number of users, I cannot talk number of patients, I cannot talk number of teeth. I can go back and say, boss, I've treated 2.5 lakh teeth in the last 1 month. But does it appear amusing? I don't think so, right? So when I talk numbers, I talk revenues, I talk profitability. I don't talk number of patients, and I don't think we should. So for me, growth is that.
Abhinav, what's the case? With 630 crores raised, right, recently, how are you defining?
See, 630 crores or whatever the number, it is finite. Right?
Sure.
So we truly believe that building efficiency in the business and sticking to your good unit level economics is important if you are going after scale. Otherwise, you can't scale. You know, with the same amount of funds, you can't go as far as you would like to go. So that doesn't change with whatever money you raise, right? There is of course newer ways of, you know, hitting that scale which open up because you have capital, right? You are able to do a TV campaign. There is a huge ROI for that, but if you don't have capital, you can't do it. So there are certain ways in which I think, you know, we should, the growth versus unit economics thing, the balance is not really always, you know, conflict. But yes, being a venture funded company, it is extremely important to show growth of the top line. You cannot say that I'm taking a break for 6 months and I'm going to build my bottom line. You know, so there are those restrictions, but it's ultimately a balance that you have to keep driving. We at this point of time remain very focused in driving efficiencies in the business so that we continue to scale fast. That has been one reason why we have scaled. If we had not had the continuous focus on the bottom line, we would never have scaled this fast. And at the same time, we are looking at innovative ways of how to replicate the model faster, whether it is, you know, going back, training more people who can sell, or whether it is about communicating your value proposition in a very simple way that the, you know, masses can understand. And ours is a mass product, which is a great thing going right for us. We are not in the niche segment. So that ways, you know, growth versus bottom line is very clear for us. There is always a balance, but you cannot ignore one versus the other.
Has the definition been changing for you, or growth has been constant?
I think in our business, there's two ways to look at it. Growth has been constant for us. Bottom line is also as important in terms of, technically we are actually a brick and mortar business in that sense. So for us, both the top line and bottom line have been important, but on the second part of it, because we kind of really created the category of alternative music and culture, that's something we never lose our kind of eye on. So for us, how many people, from an artist perspective, how many people have started listening to non-Bollywood music, non-mainstream music, that's also in a way growth. When you kind of manage comedians, it's like the next AIB show is a massive primetime show taking on politicians and politics and upfront. So to kind of have their influence across a few million kids who are not afraid to take on the government, that's also growth for us in a way, because that's influence. And that might not directly result into a top line or bottom line, but you're kind of growing your category in that sense. So it's, for us, both of these things are fairly important. You can't just really look at the top line, bottom line. That will kind of run itself.
Okay, one last question before we wrap up. I'd like you to share one anecdote which says, this is the way I screwed up in my sales process, and I wouldn't want you to do this.
There's a lot of anecdotes, so I'm going there.
But he screwed up ever, it seems.
I just want to point out, he made one of the best sales pitch that nobody noticed, that either come to, and you know, when he was talking about people will die of if you have dental disorders, like come to me or you will die. What a great marketing pitch that will be.
Correct. It's either God or it's my dentist that will save you.
So, you know, one of the biggest mistakes we did was somewhere during our second year of operation, we forgot who our target audience was. We've always thought that we are the Aam Aadmi's dentist. You know, Aam Aadmi nowadays had a very bad connotation, but yeah. Besides that point, Aam Aadmi for us is middle class, upper middle class. We are their dentist, but sometimes it becomes very easy to, you know, And one of the reasons is also because you're always focusing on the growth revenue pressures. So you feel why can't we do things in the Warden roads of the world? Why can't we do things in the Nepean Sea roads of the world? If you can do something on Andheri West Station, why can't you do the same on Nepean Sea Road? And we tried doing it. We burnt a lot of money, investor money, of course. But we screwed up over there, and then we realized that, moving away from our target audience was the biggest mistake. And that's one thing that we are never going to do, ever.
I hope you're noting these 3 points. These are valuable insights. Vijay, you want to take a shot?
Yeah, for me it's not a sales process thing, but the biggest mistakes I've made over and over is not fire people at the right time. Especially when you start a business and it's one person coming second, you kind of get emotionally connected to people, and you can see people screw up, and the amount of time you end up wasting because either your partners are screwing up or employees are screwing up, but you just don't have the courage, or in my case, I didn't know how to fire people, and how do you go and tell somebody, you don't have a job anymore, or, you shouldn't be working here anymore. And now I'm the complete opposite end of it. I mean, 1 minute, that's enough. I mean, if I see somebody that's not kind of in there immediately, because I think it's good for the person and for the company. But I think I've seen so many startups and companies make that mistake of not letting people go who are not right for the company, and that you end up kind of paying for it in the long term.
So ours was pretty interesting. We had a good product.
Fired. Somebody just hit me in the face. I said, must be somebody I fired.
So we were doing a lot of stuff right, but one of the anecdotes I remember very clearly, we had these young guys right out of college or right out of business school, and they were doing all the sales process. And you always believe as a startup that, you are quirky, you are new generation, and the traditional things do not matter as much, and I'm going out there and, really recreating history and disrupting and all that. But at the core of it, the customer is still the traditional customer and, thinking like he was thinking yesterday when you were not around. And then we realized that one of the feedbacks we got was all these shabby looking people in shorts and in chappals, they turn up and they open an app and they say that I'm going to pitch you something and here is my 10 crore of asset. Like, how do you think I can, hand it over to this guy? So that was the biggest feedback we got. So, we really learned from the traditional sales process that, hey, give them max and, make sure that they're shaving every day and make them get dressed up in suits, and these guys started loving themselves. So my salesman was happy, and the owner was happy, and things started moving. So it's in my opinion, startups, there's a lot of virtue in understanding the traditional sales process also. So whatever you are doing, ultimately, a lot of elements of that has been done earlier. So try to capture that essence. That's very helpful.
So build the right perception, know your audience, and hire fast, fire fast. Thank you, gentlemen. That was an inspirational and insightful talk. Thanks for being here. We have a token of appreciation from one of our partners.